Meow, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I just woke up. I'm still trying to process my thoughts here, but I've been thinking about doing this video since whole day yesterday. I really want to share with you why I started really being bullish on this stock Robinhood, ticker symbol Hood, HOOD. Why I started being very bullish on it really since the turn of the year into early January. I made a whole thread, even spent some time to draw this. Robin Hood Cantonese cat here, which looks absolutely ridiculous. But I'll copy the link down underneath to show you the link to the thread that I put, I think, back in like January 5th or something like that. But I really lay out a whole thesis technically in terms of why I think Robinhood could be on a run here pretty soon, and why Q1 2024 could be a good time to load up and to buy into this stock. And I'll show you some of the things that I was thinking about and kind of show you how things I think may be playing out here, showing you different time frames. First of all, I look at 6-month candles. This is actually a good way to look at a stock in terms of where you think it potentially go long term, is to look at 6-month candles. Each one of these candles represent about half a year price action. And of course, 2021 was just an absolutely brutal year, right? One thing first off, right off the bat, is you got a candle kind of like this, right? Now, anytime when you get a candle with a long wick and it's at the extreme of prices, if it's on top, generally it can either be, like a shooting star or gravestone doji type deal. Usually those things represent a top. But if you get a giant wick with a small body candle at the bottom, generally these things could potentially represent a reversal. I find that if the candle is more on the top part of the whole thing and the wick is underneath, those things generally play out very well. Those candles generally you refer them to as a dragonfly candle, but here it's got instead of doing that, it's got like a little bit of inverted hammer where this is like the bulk of the hammer and the big giant handle is up there, and this is kind of like an inverted hammer doji type thing. These things could potentially still signify a bottom, and it looks like it kind of did, right? So afterwards, the second thing I spotted was there's a pattern here called three white soldiers, which is what it's been doing over the last 1, 2, and 3 candles. This candle is still ongoing, obviously. But what three white soldiers are that there are 3 consecutive candles that are green candles, they're bullish. And then each one of these body candles are touching the other body of the candle, and it just keeps making a straight line up for 3 consecutive candles. Usually the 3 white soldier candles are more favoring of a bullish continuation. Now, even after 3 white soldiers, sometimes you can still have a little bit of volatility going down, but then eventually the trend with a 3 white soldier tends to be pointing up. One other thing to consider is that some people might look at this whole thing right here and are worried that this could potentially be kind of like a falling 3 type pattern where you have a big giant bearish candle followed by consecutive candles trying to break out of this range but unable to do so, and usually this could follow by a huge down big giant bear candle. Now, this doesn't tend out to work with a higher time frame like a 6-month or a year kind of thing. This generally work out more for a smaller time frame like monthly or weekly type thing, just because of how delayed 6 months to a year can be, and just because sometimes after IPO you can have a vicious downfall, and eventually with increased liquidity, with improving fundamental of the stock, you can continue to go up, right? So not all falling 3 patterns are gonna work the way that you think it would. Just to show you, for example, this is SPY, the S&P 500 index fund. You can see that after the great financial crisis, there's a huge giant candle right here going down, and it spanned about a couple of years, a few years, trying to break out this range. Back in 2011, a lot of people were actually scared that we could get like a double bottom type thing, but it never did. It just kept on going up because global liquidity kept going up, because they kept printing money, right? And as you get around here, the U.S. economy fundamentals have also gotten a little bit better. So obviously, it's going to break out of this range, right? So I think a very similar thing could be happening with Robinhood, and you have to take these kind of falling three with a grain of salt, especially when it comes to higher time frame, especially put it into context, right? All right, enough about 6-month candles. I actually spent about 5 minutes talking about 6-month candles, but it's important, right? Talking about 3-month candles, right off the bat, you see now each of these represent a quarter instead of half a year. Right off the bat, you see actually after the IPO, it made a big giant gravestone candle with the candle right here with a big giant wick on top. This is a very bearish candle. Obviously, it's followed through by 3 pretty bearish candles after that. Now, a lot of times with these kind of falling three, sorry, not falling three, but a lot of these, with 3 consecutive candles like this, it can also potentially be called 3 black crows, which is the opposite of 3 white soldiers. But again, a higher time frame, especially when it comes to bearish momentum, a lot of times you just don't get the continuation of that. I want you to take these kind of pattern with a grain of salt too when it comes to higher time frame. But I do want to point out there's a failed 3 black crow pattern here, which is followed by this is kind of crazy too. It's just kind of followed by 6 consecutive and actually 6 consecutive inside candles that are being engulfed by this one candle right here. I'm going to draw some of the lines here to kind of show you what I mean by inside candles. There are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles that closed inside of this parent candle right here. And inside candles generally means that it's just consolidating, right? It could either go up, it could go down. And usually, if you look at these inside candles, generally they favor a continuation of the primary trend. So, for example, if you look at this inside candle here, like, oh crap, this is going to keep being bearish because the overall trend is bearish, right? You got this 3 black crow thing here. Are you really worried about this potentially could be just a inside candle for consolidation before it kept going down, right? Well, the problem with this is, again, with the higher time frame inside candles, you have to take that with a grain of salt, right? Here, when I see that, yeah, of course, I do get worried. I don't really want to necessarily buy into the stock, but you see what's happening, right? And it ends up developing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inside candles over here, and you get additional data too after that. And as I see more additional data, I start to see the volume, right? You can start seeing that the volume over here with these bearish candles are starting to trend down. That means to me that there's an exhaustion of sellers. And you can also start seeing over here too, you start to get increased buying volume over here. So that means that there is more buyers to come in. And that's what these inside candles mean to me. I think looking at the volume pattern and looking at the fact that there are 6 consecutive inside candles engulfed by this one giant candle right here, this could potentially signal a very powerful trend change. And sure enough, earlier on Friday, I almost looked at this and it looked like it peaked above of this range. So I was like, hey, this quarter looked like we could be breaking out here of this inside candle range. But ultimately, it ended up getting rejected right here, as you expect, because every time you try to break out of something, initially you get some initial rejection. It's not surprising, but this quarter is still young. You still have March, and the fundamentals seems to keep getting better and better when you look at the stocks earnings. So I have a good feeling that it's most likely going to break out of this range here, and this could be the first candle to do it. If it doesn't end up doing that, that means more time for me to buy. That means there's even more room over here to keep buying. But when it breaks out, it could be very powerful. That's what I see with the 3-month, and you have to kind of put things into context here, looking at the candles, looking at the volume. That really tells you a lot, and you don't really need a whole lot of fancy indicators for this. Now, looking at the 1-month chart, now you're getting a little bit into a lower time frame here. It's still quite high time frame, but I do want to point out a few things that I saw, right? First off, I want to point out is that things just keep getting more and more bullish when it comes to volume profile. And if we just look at the individual candles, I'm going to turn off the Bollinger Band here to not distract you. I just want to look at the candle individually, right? Initially, it seems like there's a big giant bear trend, right? Selling volume goes up. And then you also have an additional capitulation right here, a big selling volume candle here with additional selling volume go up, right? You do have some buying volume over here, but the buying volume was really not that committal here at this point, right? There's a little bit of drop off right here. There is a little bit of a Dragonfly Doji here. It's not perfect because the wick up there is, still quite a lot. So you start seeing a little bit of more like a bottoming behavior here. But the volume hasn't confirmed it, and you look at it, you're like, okay, so I probably need some time for some confirmation here. And sure enough, it took about, and there's no hurry to buy here because it took about really 2 years for it to form a giant base. And it gives you a lot of information over here too. What I'm seeing here in general is that selling volume continues to drop off. As you can see, sell volume continues to drop off. And each time when you start to have these kind of buy volume, it seems to be trending up. Buy volume seems to be trending up. Sell volume tends to go down. Buy volume goes up. Sell volume goes down. And buy volume goes up here. Sell volume again, not as big as the buy volume over here. So there really seems to be a trend change here. If anything, if you just kind of draw a little bit of a line over here, you look at the sell volume, look at these red bars, right? There's a downtrend here. But as opposed to if you look at the green bars, there really seems to be, since around here, it seems to be an uptrend. So this seems like a very, very strong accumulation range for over the course of 2 years. When I see something like that, I started technically getting very bullish on the stock. Now, in addition to that, you also want to see a simple indicator, and usually I like to look at the Bollinger Bands, especially for monthly. That really tells me whether or not there's any sign for a major trend change. There is. The orange line here shows you the 20-month moving average. And what you're seeing here is right around here, it starts to slope positive, and it starts to really start to develop a positive trend change here. And when you see the 20-month really start to flatten out and start crawling up positive, generally it could indicate a very powerful trend change here. If you are interested in looking at my previous videos, I've also mentioned this on my Bitcoin video. I also mentioned this on the Bitcoin miner videos. And this is one of the patterns that I look at. I think I also mentioned it on the market update video a couple of days ago too. But I think it started seeing a very powerful trend change here because of the longer term moving averages starting to grow up to give this whole thing more of a bullish support. You can also see that the Bollinger Band starts to squeeze over here, indicating potentially there's a big move coming, and sure enough, there was. And what you're seeing right now is the Bollinger Band is starting to expand into kind of like a crocodile mouth opening kind of thing, where this could potentially signal a bigger move is coming, and there's a potential that hood could potentially keep on riding up the upper Bollinger Band while the Bollinger Band continues to expand. So another thing that looked kind of like this, not so much SPY, but another thing that kind of looks kind of like this was Chainlink, right? If you look at the Chainlink chart for the Bollinger Bands, you start to see a very, very similar thing here. There's a trend change here, and then things just start going very ballistic. And the crocodile's mouth is very much open, the Bollinger Band expanding, allowing the room for this price action to go more impulsive to the upside. Also, after about a 2-year accumulation range over here, you can see the trend change could potentially lead to a very powerful move. Now, obviously, this is just one indicator. Obviously, it's not always going to work out, but for the most part, this is a very good guide that could be a trend change coming. And it's starting to look very, very bullish, guys. Now, in addition to looking at that, let me see. I haven't really looked at the Ichimoku cloud here for quite some time. There's not going to be a cloud formation here on the monthly just because there's not enough history to show you that. But there is such a thing as a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross, and it looks like it could be happening over the next couple of months. When that happens, there could be potential bullish reversal, and it could actually lead to a pretty powerful move up. That's something that I kind of want to maybe pay attention to. I think I beat the crap out of the monthly now. I'm going to show you the weekly. Now, weekly, right off the bat, I want to show you the Ichimoku cloud over here. And to just kind of refresh your memory about what I think, how I think about Ichimoku cloud is this. Red cloud over here, generally that means strong resistance and weak support. Whereas opposed to you starting in an area where you have green cloud over here, generally these are going to be more of a stronger support and a weaker resistance. And also kind of how thin or how thick it is tells you how strong this potential support resistance is. You can use this just like you use any moving averages, any horizontal support, or any horizontal resistance. You can use this in a very similar way. But I'll show you this, like right here, it looks like there's a false breakout because there's still a pretty thick red cloud here, which can potentially serve as pretty strong resistance here. And sure enough, it got rejected. It tried to bounce back up over here, but it just didn't have enough bullish energy to do so. So it got rejected from the cloud, went underneath of it. And it really tried to break through this resistance here. Looks like there was a potential breakout here, but it just never ended up doing that, even though the cloud was thin and you think the resistance was not very strong. At a certain point, I really thought, hey, maybe it could break through here, but it didn't. And it kept on making some lows over here. And as you see over here, it really made a breakout over here. Finally, with these very impulsive buying volume. And of course, anytime when you break out from a resistance, it makes perfect sense for it to go back down to test it as support, right? You always want to have the back test if you can to make this breakout confirmed, and that could really give you more bullish confirmation, right? So back in January, when I saw that, hey, it broke out, it might be making a back test over down here, I better start buying because who knows what it's going to do based on the higher time frame. It's been consolidating for about 2 years. And sure enough, the weekly looks like it bounced here and it's really trying to test this area as support for a few weeks. And then finally, after earnings, there's a big giant candle over here showing you that there is indeed a support being found and you're bouncing up and now is making a higher high. It means that there's a very bullish trend change that are going on here. You always want to see price action making a higher low and a higher high, and that's exactly what Hood is doing. So this is the weekly, and based on looking at volume 2, I also was very bullish on this because of the bullish volume that I had here through the breakout. It looks like a real breakout over here. And as it went a back test, it really kind of did it on a very pathetic volume here. So I really have a hard time believing that this could potentially be a false breakout and you're going to have a breakdown. That to me the possibility was less, and this really started to confirm it over here with the confirmation of the back test and a huge volume bounce. I think the price is probably going to go higher because of that. Now, in addition to looking at the Ichimoku cloud, when you look at the weekly, I generally like to look at the bull market support band. This consists of the 20-week simple moving average and 21-week exponential moving average. And it's a very good way to see if price are, if it's negative slope and price is underneath, you could get rejected and price could keep going down lower. But you can see that it's been hugging this bull market support band for about 2 years now. And it looks like it's finally forming a good base. It's finally going up, and it's finally back testing it on decreasing volume. And it looks like it's found support here. The band is starting to slope up, right? It's got a pretty impulsive buying volume over here. So I really think that there's a big potential that this could be breaking out at this kind of stage 1 accumulation, and we could be starting a stage 2 uptrend relatively soon if we haven't already started it. I'm going to try to buy as much as I can. I think I probably have about like 80 or 90% of what I want, but I really want to focus on, additional accumulation over here. I don't generally show the daily chart because that's not the time frame that I generally work on. I like to think that higher time frame charts, including weekly, monthly, or even 3 months or 6 month candles, are generally a lot more powerful to look at trend change. I'm not a day trader. I'm more trying to find good entries to get into a decent investment, or potentially 1 or 2 year swing trades if I have to. I am looking at this, and this is starting to get more and more and more bullish, right? Another way to look at this, and I know I'm already close to the 20-minute mark, so I'm going to be pretty fast about it. Another way to look at this is a volume shelf, which can serve as a powerful support versus volume. And it looks like it's really starting to break out this pretty thick volume shelf over here. And once it really breaks through the other, volume shelf over here, there's really not much volume above. I think there's a lot of room for the stock to go up, running upwards. And I think we're at the phase where the basing of this stock could be over again. It's been going for about 2 years, guys. If you look at the whole price action here, if you look and ask me what the price target could be, I think it's tough. For some stocks, I think there are ways to look at it, and I can give you very good, history here. For Robinhood, you have an IPO here. I think there is probably some irrational exuberant over here. So I cannot say I can draw a Fibonacci level here. I cannot say I expect it to just go ahead and run right back up to all-time highs, right? Because all-time highs in the 80s, and right now the stock is in the teens. I think it's going to be quite difficult for it to go up there. Even within a period of like 3 to 5 years, I think it's going to require a lot of very impulsive price action and require a lot of fundamental change for you to be able to get up there. I don't really want to rely on that. So and it's also hard to find, okay, so where is it going to retrace from? Like, what's the level? Are you going to look at the retracement level back to when it started IPOing? If you do see some pretty interesting levels here, right? You do see that, if you go from that IPO level or you go to the all-time low down here, you can see that, yeah, it is kind of respecting these kinds of levels over here at the 0.136 and at the 0.236. It does seem like it's respecting this level, and look, it does look like we're breaking out from that area, doesn't it? So if you look at it this way, it's very possible the next target is going to be 17, 20, and 23.2. This could be the golden ratio, this Fibonacci level. There's no hard and fast rule when it comes to using Fibonacci levels to try to find a price target, but you just try to make it the best fit as possible. And so far, I think, and I've been looking at this for quite some time, initially I was like, okay, so should I draw it from here? Where there seems to be a little bit of a, price action here that could suggest that. And if you look at this, it does also kind of respect this Fib level as well. You can see a lot of touches over here, the 0.136. And you can see a lot of touches over here at the 0. Let me see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 0.618 over here. It looks like it's breaking out, and it could potentially hit like 14.75 or 15, and there could be a little bit of a resistance level over here. So there's no hard and fast rule, but I would like to look at maybe when it started IPOing, and it seems to be respecting over here, so that could also give you some longer term price target if you really want to take profit from this stock. I personally am not going to take profit anytime soon because after 2 years of accumulation, I just kind of want to ride this thing, see what the fundamentals look like, keep looking at earnings, and then go from there. It's been way over 20 minutes. I'm going to shut up now. Thank you for listening. Bye.